unboxing is Kindred Spirits, Shilombish Ittibachvffa, by Leslie Stahl Widener, illustrated by Yazzie. Widener, that's a name that I recognize from the Widener Library at Harvard, who was a real, Mayflower type Bostonian whose son died actually on the Titanic. So I wonder if there's any relation to the Wideners. But maybe not, because she is actually a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. But it would be cool if there was some kind of, Ancestry.com, ties to that Widener family. And Yazzie is, he is from the Navajo Nation. And so what is the story about? Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this. So do you remember back, well, I'm sure you guys heard, the potato famine in Ireland. And, that caused the great immigration of Irish to the United States, particularly to Boston, just because, and this is what I learned. I was kind of like, well, why do they only have potatoes? So it turns out when Ireland, I guess they, the land that they had wasn't that arable. It wasn't great farming land. And so many parts of Ireland, the only crops that would grow were potatoes, because potatoes were actually pretty easy to grow, pretty hardy, and could grow in all kinds of conditions, and also was had a pretty dense amount of yield for the amount of land you had. And that's why potatoes became this staple crop in Ireland. And and so it was the food that fed them for millennia. And then the potato famine was because of disease. The potatoes had disease, and it was, I think, several years where the potato crop was just wiped out. And so I think some countries helped and sent food, but was the most meaningful was when Native Americans who were, poor themselves, raised money and sent them food. And it was the Choctaw Nation. I knew it was a Native American, but I didn't know which one. And it was out of this deep sense of empathy, because they knew hunger and starvation, and they also knew what it was to have their land stolen, and only given the worst land for whoever survived. There was a lot of empathy and just feeling like they were kindred, that same things happened to them. And so so it was pretty meaningful that they identified so much, and actually totally just stepped up to the plate and did it. And so the atrocities that the Irish suffered during the potato, there were all kinds of, because I don't think they were getting that much support. I mean, even England, who really, you could say, was responsible for taking the land that was more, better farming land. I believe that the English were quite unhelpful, and also, the closest geographically. And so there was mass starvation. And it also looked, so maybe they weren't the only ones. The Hopi Nation also, so we have other Native American nations featured in here. So I think it's partly the history of how the Choctaw Nation helped the Irish. Oh, yeah. Okay, so here we have more specifics. So Ireland did seem to be a fertile land of plenty, but the land was owned by the English, and the farmers grew potatoes for themselves, um, and the crops on the good land basically all went to the English landlords, and if the crops were poor, the landlords evicted them and destroyed their homes. Yeah, so there's not a lot of love lost between the Irish and the English for sure. And this is what it dates back to, it's colonization. And really kind of this attitude of the English towards the Irish, that they were almost like subhuman, Um, and so the Choctaw Nation, who suffered from the Trail of Tears, were particularly sensitive and sympathetic, and so they did this this fundraising, this huge gift. And then we have the Hopi and the Navajo, and this is during COVID. So I'm not sure. I think that's also related to Ireland. So Ireland helped the Navajo and Hopi nations. Yeah, so during COVID, during the vaccines, the government, 2020, under the Trump administration, was definitely not on it. And so Ireland kind of repaid that kindness back to Native Americans. Wow, a beautiful story of connection and history, and showing that, something that you do in the past is never forgotten. Like kindness is never forgotten, even though it's many generations have passed. It goes into the collective memory of each nation. And, it forges a connection that is pretty strong. What a beautiful story. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thank you. Thank you to Charlesbridge for sending this to me, and thank you for watching.